Hello, I am Jamie Buckland with the West Virginia Few Families United for Education. I am talking today with my friend Kathy. Kathy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get started in Latin?
Okay. I'm Kathy Sheppard, Magistra Sheppard's Latin and Classics, and I started with Latin, I guess, when I was 13 and was taking my Latin classes, and my Latin teacher in high school said, "Hey, if you teach Latin, I will give you free books." And I was like, "Free books? Free books? Sure. Yes, sign me up." So I studied Latin in William and Mary and got my degree to teach, and I taught for 9 years. And then it was cute because these homeschool kids would come up to me and and parents and would say, "Hey, we really want to do Latin, but we don't know how. We wish we had had you to help us." And I was like, "Oh, well." People kept doing that. It was like God's way of, I don't know, pointing me to a new direction. So when I got pregnant with our first daughter, who's Annie, she's going to be a senior this year. I decided to help work with homeschoolers, and so I've done that ever since. So, working with
Wow.
homeschool parents, working with homeschool students, just helping them along with their Latin careers.
Yeah. And so, what year then did you start serving homeschool families? Do you remember when that got started?
2006.
2006. So then I was introduced to your work in the summer of 2013, 2012, 2013, something like that. You were offering like an online class. I remember I had to, was it Blackboard
It was
that we used?
Blackboard back then, yes.
So we signed up with Blackboard, and I can remember I was ignorant, and I had to learn how to log on and make sure that I was doing all the things, and I had to have all of my books. So I brought this to show this. I was looking for my Ethan's, he's getting ready to turn 22, but so he
Hmm.
was the student that I was leading through Latin, and then I had a class that I was leading through, and so I was looking for his book because his his purple book, his Henley Latin book, was in worse shape than mine. This is
Oh,
actually
that book's
mine.
well loved. I
Yes,
appreciate that. If
yes,
you see a student and their book creaks open, you go, "Oh, this kid hadn't
yeah.
studied Latin at all." So I appreciate that.
Yes, and this was our grammar book, of course, that we had to keep by our side. But I just remember not even understanding what the purpose of each book was and how, like, okay, so it's open. What do I even do now? And then I was introduced to your class and kind of like this crash course in verbs and parts of speech, and so tell us a little bit about how you approach Latin for a student or for a family or even a class.
The first thing I usually do is figure out the book that they want to use. If they're in certain programs that use Henley, then we have to use Henley. But the I always try to see where they are with their English first. Do they know the parts of speech? And then do they want a fun book? Because there are books that are way more fun than Henley. Sorry, Henley,
Mhm.
Mr.
Well,
Henley, but
I'm glad you're saying this because I was going to pull my other ones off the shelves, and I was like, no, we'll wait and see what she says. So this is good. I'm glad to hear this from you.
one that the Latin for Children curriculum is really good for younger kids. For high school, I still like Ecce Romani, which is what I used when I was teaching public school.
Mhm.
So, um, but
Where can you
there's
get?
one book.
Where
There's
can
one.
you get that? Do you know where you can get?
They're not very friendly to homeschoolers, and that's the one thing I'm gonna be writing them about because
Mhm.
you can get used copies of Ecce Romani, and thrift books has been my favorite thing lately. I'm always getting a thrift book in the mail, but um, Ecce
That's good to
Romani,
know.
like 2005, 2001 editions,
Okay.
are really good and really fun. Um,
Mhm.
I but Oh, there's one book now that no one for some reason wants to do with me. I don't understand why. It's all in Latin, everything. There's no, it's Hans Orberg's I think it's Lingua Latina, Latin family something, but
Yeah.
I can get you the name because you
Okay.
love Latin and you like a good challenge. I know you.
We'll
So
link, we'll link in the comments all
okay,
of these different ones that we're mentioning so
okay,
that families can kind of get on and review them and
excellent,
look through them. So that's good.
excellent. But it's all in Latin. There's nothing in English in this book. Nothing. I don't even know how exactly you use it, but I want to use it so badly with
Yeah, yeah,
someone. With
yeah.
someone.
So you establish what books or curriculum you're going to use.
Hmm.
And then, so that's kind of individualizing it a little bit so that
Yes.
it works for them.
Homeschooling has to be individualized. It doesn't really work if it's, just
Mhm.
cookie cutter for everyone. So I know that my oldest did fine with Henley. My second, she doesn't like it as much because it's dry. It's very dry. And Latin is so important. It's the easily, if you do classical education, it's the easily most integrated subject of all the subjects. And my Dorothy Sayers quote I love that 50 if you the study of Latin cuts down the effort and labors needed in any other subject by at least 50%. And it's true. I found that my Latin has helped me with every other subject I've ever taken. So,
Yeah, give us your elevator speech for Latin. I mean, I have my own reasons that I personally love it, but I will say, let's see. So it's been about a decade, I guess, now that I've been a student of Latin. I mean, I took it in high school. Mr.
mhm.
McBride, love his heart. He was so good to me. I was a terrible, terrible youth. I know this is hard for everyone to imagine. I was a terrible student. I was a terrible high school student. For those of you in West Virginia, Miller Hall, who is the president of our state board, is my former principal. And I think he would probably agree that I was a terrible student. The Lord has been good to me, has brought me out of that. But as a student, as an adult, I have the reasons that I love it, but I want to hear from you. What are the reasons that you feel like individuals should study Latin?
um, well, Latin is so easily integrated. It helps with everything. It helps you with the vocabulary that you need for everything. When you're studying, especially the sciences, the scientific vocabulary is all Latin. The structure of Latin helps you with any foreign language that has endings instead of word order as the important thing. So 52.6% of English words come from Latin, and 90% of words, two syllables or more, come from Latin. To me, it really trains your brain logically. I know sometimes in my education classes they said global transfer is not a real thing, but I think it is because the way I translate a sentence is the same way I do a math problem. I look at it in that logical way. And I'm a word girl anyways. I love words. So
Well, I like to say, I talk a lot about not being a reader and because I'm extroverted. And so actually, like sitting down and reading or studying isn't like fun for me. I tell people, like, I don't smell books and get all excited. Like that's just not who I am. But so one of the things that I found as I studied Latin is it was like the brain teasers that they tell you, like to help ward off Alzheimer's or to help
mhm.
keep your brain healthy. And what I found was that even for my Ethan, he had viral meningitis 2 years
Mm,
after we started learning Latin. And his neurologist after that even said, like, slowly get back into this after that brain injury and give
mhm,
him some time. But this will be so good for him to be able to
mhm,
use that to exercise his brain. And I just have found that so that's kind of like a fun part of it if you like puzzles.
mhm.
But in teaching my children, I do feel like it has helped with vocabulary. So we have never been this super academic, rigorous family. It's kind of like I have felt like, well, we'll educate them classically. We will invest in reading good literature, but we're not going to necessarily like shove it down their throats. And so I have found that just a little bit doing less and doing it well has helped with their vocabulary. They've always tested very highly when it comes to and vocabulary. So those are just some things that we found for our family that we've feel like it has been a benefit. Also, you were talking about the sciences. What about with law? Because I know that in just trying to like decipher code, state code and read through, I find that can come in handy as well.
It truly does. And lawyers sometimes will come and say, I wish I had taken Latin.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about then you also do mythology and kind of expand on Latin literature as well.
Well, the mythology really is fun. It teaches them a lot about the ancient worldview, and just my students, I'm reading Percy Jackson with a group right now. Have you read Percy Jackson?
Yeah.
I love Percy Jackson.
Yes.
But this one girl was like, it's no wonder Christianity is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, because these Greek gods were terrible. And we discussed how terrible they were and their anthropomorphism. And then she was like, Zeus is just awful. And all these, he doesn't follow any of it. It was hilarious. It was not hilarious like haha, but like amazing that she was realizing this at a young age. But I said, the moons of Jupiter are all named after his lovers. So that's an easy way to remember them. I think there's 79. I finally got that, 79. But mythology helps you. It helps you think about what the ancients thought about. And it also helps you with science and even history. There's some history that when you learn the legends specifically, they help you with Roman history and Greek history. And I love for my students to take the National Latin exam, and I do a National Latin exam prep class, which I guess I never did that when you were back in the day.
Oh, no.
So I have a National Latin exam prep guide that I wrote because I got tired of homeschoolers not having the tools they needed. Because if you use Henley or an older book, a book that predates the National Latin exam, you don't do as well on the National Latin exam because you don't have the tools you need. You don't have the vocabulary. You don't have any of the mythology. You don't have any of the Roman history or even just culture. You don't know what a Roman looks like, silly things like that are super fun and super interesting to students.
Yeah. Now, are you currently offering any online courses, or would someone sign up individually for tutoring? What does it look like right now?
So right now I have a Latin 1 course. I'm going to do a Latin 2 course that's going to be based on Henley in a week, coming up a couple weeks from now. People also have been signing up just to have some tutoring with me, just to see maybe what they're missing in their Latin, because sometimes it's just something really tiny that they don't understand. That I think it's that way with lots of subjects. Some tiny they don't understand, and once it's clarified, they're like, oh yeah, I get this now.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit as far as like foreign languages concerned about the differences in a grammar approach versus is it the Gwyn method or like a conversational approach? because I feel like with Latin, as much as I want to love Minimus and Maximus from Cambridge, I
Mhm.
have found that I feel more comfortable, or maybe even like sing song Latin from Classical Academic Press. It's like I feel more comfortable with the Latin from like Memoria. With I love their series, their
Their
forms.
first forms.
Yeah. So, can you talk a little bit about the difference in a grammar approach and a conversational approach?
It's kind of just like writings, um, writing education as well. The grammar approach takes it from the specific things to the general. Like you learn specific little tools and then you put them together to do the big thing. The minimus approach and somewhat the very old Ecce Romani I didn't like because it was kind of that whole language approach. Roll in the book, see what you find. Um, so I prefer I prefer a strong grammar approach, but also I like a lot of translation as well
Hmm.
because by translating they get to experience the Latin and they get trained to do more of the cool stuff because as much as I love the grammar stage of Latin, the cool stuff is when you get to translate and you get to see what Ovid thought and where Ovid would go pick up women. I mean, it's silly, but Ovid has this whole discussion about the best places to find women and how to look in order to attract a woman.
Yeah.
So,
The humanities part was always fun for us in reading through Henley. I mean, because you were talking about, ancient Rome and soldiers and blood and death and swords. And
uh-huh.
that was just kind of the topic that you were covering with your students. So, well, anything, as we're wrapping up, anything that you want to make a mention of for how you serve families or students?
So if you're interested in some Latin classes, I would love to have you. If you would like to do some National Latin Exam prep, I've got books for that. If you need a good answer key, if you do Henley, that
Yeah,
you could private tutoring in Latin is is an option. Parent classes, I've got quite a bit. And if I don't have something you need and you want it, let me know and then I'll write it. I'll try to write it into my schedule,
that's
which
right.
is
That's right.
always filling up. Because I'm
Where
always
can
thinking
we go? Where can we go to learn more?
latinandclassics.com.
Latinandclassics.com. Well, Kathy, I have enjoyed getting to talk with you, and I will
Yeah.
go as soon as we wrap up here. I will go link to some of those books that we mentioned in the comments. And if you think of anything, you can drop it in the
Excellent.
comments here, and we'll make sure that our viewers have access to that. I really appreciate
Great.
you taking this time. It was great catching up.
Thank you. It was
Yeah, have
super
a great
fun. Thank you.
afternoon.
All right. Bye.